morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Ivy Tech Northeast Campus for this post-secondary career pathways event. Thank you, everyone, for being here this morning. We're excited about our agenda today. There's been some wonderful planning and a lot of hard work behind bringing all of you together, and we're excited about the folks who were able to join us today between our K-12 higher education, nonprofit, industry representatives. So thank you for being here this morning. My name is Josh Wenning. I'm the Executive Director for the Region 8 Education Service Center, one of the partners today. I've been asked to help kind of MC the day a little bit to kind of help keep us moving through the agenda, to keep us on time, on track, so that we can obviously respect everyone's time, have a meaningful day, and make sure that this is a great event for everyone who's involved. You are here today as an important component to the success of our students and industries in Northeast Indiana. Educators, employers, nonprofits, industry leaders, government representatives, and community partners are convening today to lead our region forward as a model for successful partnerships and successful use of post-secondary career pathways. Our goal is simple yet challenging, which is align K-12 and higher education resources to the needs of employers to maximize career pathway opportunities for students. Post-secondary career pathways are needed now more than ever as global competition, a rapidly changing job market, and economic uncertainties make planning for our students' futures difficult. A recent Gallup survey found that only 49% of 5th through 12th grade students identified as being engaged in school, while 47% saw their futures as being hopeful, so again, less than half. In fact, the survey found that students become less engaged as they move through school. Part of the reason for these results is the inability for some students to have the opportunity to do what they do best on a regular basis, or to pursue areas of interest and natural talent. Career pathways provide the avenue for student engagement by laying out a structured plan for success, leading to not only jobs, but to a career. This plan inspires hope, and it allows students to create goals in order to achieve their dreams. So what's our purpose of the day? It should begin with what author Simon Sinek laid out as our why. What's our cause, our belief, our purpose? Our why is what we believe students who fully engage and connect with career pathway resources will maximize their college and career readiness, quite simply. We know that if they take advantage of what we can structure for them, this can maximize their own talents, maximize our resources, and also our collective resources. The what and the how of how we do that is by seeking these collaborative solutions. We're here as collaborative partners from a variety of sectors, a variety of industries. Again, from education, business, and nonprofit stakeholders in assisting students with career pathways. The how of what we do is through the leading of convening sessions just like this one. So while each of you come today with your own why you do what you do, the purpose behind your organization, the purpose for what drives you when you wake up in the morning, I would challenge you to take advantage of this time together, to be an active participant. That's going to be really important. You're going to get out of today what you're willing to put in. If you engage with if our education partners engage with our business partners and vice versa, it's going to be a much more meaningful day for you individually and also for us collaboratively and for your team. I hope that you're able to leverage the ideas and the collective knowledge in this event to do something unique in your schools, in your organizations, to create new partnerships, to imagine resource opportunities for your students that do not currently exist. Leave today inspired to help students maximize their potential through post-secondary career pathways.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Dr. Jones. I'm with the Indiana Commission for Higher Ed and do a lot of different things. Sometimes people think the only thing I do is 21st century scholars. That would be cool, but it's not. So just a lot of different other things. Now, we have had great sessions so far with these two young men. It's been absolutely wonderful. We've talked about dual credits. We've talked about Mirror. Is it Mirror? Yes. Mirror Center. We talked about internships. So we're hoping we can help you answer some of the questions on this worksheet, and we need you to be as interactive as possible. I'm going to let both of them introduce themselves, and then we'll start with questions. Are we all right? Yes. Everyone okay? All right. Mr. Thomas will go first, and then Mr. Rice. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Calvin Thomas IV. I'm the Vice President for Healthcare on behalf of Ivy Tech. I oversee our School of Nursing and our School of Health Sciences statewide. My background is I ran hospitals for 10 years, worked for a company called HCA, Hospital Corporation of America. I was a Chief Operating Officer for them. I was Senior Vice President of Operations for a little small 953-bed hospital in downtown Atlanta called Grady Health System. And then I worked for BJC Health System in St. Louis, Missouri. I was recruited here to Indiana to, of all things, to run Arlington High School in Indianapolis. I did that for a year. And while studying to get my secondary principal's license at Marian University, I was recruited to take on this particular role as Ivy Tech was moving toward a meta major or division or sort of sector strategy. I'm looking for someone to oversee the healthcare sector on behalf of the college statewide. So happy to be here this morning.
I'm Jeff Rice. I'm the manager of talent acquisition with Parkview Health. I'm a boomerang Fort Wayner. I was born and raised here, left for college, didn't come back for 20 years, and just came back 2 years ago for this job at Parkview. Best decision I've made in my career, in my life so far. It was a struggle, especially with two little ones, but we've all adapted and we all love Fort Wayne now. My role with Parkview, again, is manager of talent acquisition, fancy way to say recruiting. My team recruits for non-physician positions, both clinical, non-clinical, ranging from service level, environmental services, dietary, all the way up to executive level type of roles.
Okay, were you all able to hear? Can everyone hear? Okay, great. So why don't we start with some of your questions, some of your concerns. I see several people that I know, so I know where you're from. Why don't we start with that, addressing either one of them? Do you have any kind of concerns, questions, comments? Yes.
So we hear a lot about healthcare in Northeast Indiana. Obviously, we have several large systems in the area, including Parkview, and also smaller, tier 2 type support systems for that. What are some of the major career opportunities in the healthcare area that you see right currently in Northeast Indiana, as far as what you're looking for, job and career-wise?
Absolutely, and that's something that we've kind of talked about in all the sessions is, yes, there's a big need for clinical right now, a huge need. Nurses, patient care type of roles, physicians, physician assistants, nurse practitioners, but there's this whole back office side of it as well that a lot of people don't know about, especially students, that about 40% of our open jobs right now are non-clinical roles. That includes HR, finance, accounting, supply chain, operations. So it's really multifaceted. Yes, there is a shortage of nurses right now, and that's a big piece of it, and that's where a lot of our focus is. But really overall, we're struggling with filling all of our positions. We've got about 1,000 open positions right now at our hospitals, but also our physician practices, because that's growing so much. And what people don't know or don't see is that there's a whole back office that supports those clinical type of people. So get into management or support type of role could lead to other opportunities down the road.
Mr. Thomas, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say that 10,000 people become Medicare eligible every day. If you look at the number of acute care facilities we have in our state, we have 164 of them. We have 272 assisted living facilities in our state. We have another 534 long-term care or skilled nursing facilities within our state. And so as the graying of our population continues to happen, healthcare would be a very popular sector for both clinical roles and non-clinical roles. We've partnered, Ivy Tech was statutorily partnered with the Department of Workforce Development. It's called Senate Enrolled Act 301, where we began to marry our data around demand. And so the top 5 jobs from a clinical perspective within our state in healthcare are CNA, RN, medical assisting, LPN, and then we can't separate this out, but EMT and paramedic. And so there's an opportunity, huge opportunities there for us to support and endorse those sort of clinical opportunities within our state. And I would say here in Northeast Indiana with Lutheran and Parkview, there's just a tremendous amount of opportunity to have a really good career and stay right here in the area.
Okay. One of the things that was discussed in the last sessions was Mr. Rice had talked about he really is trying to get into high schools. He would really like to get into your high schools and work with that. Do you have questions about internship programs or some suggestions on how he might can get into high schools? Would you like to talk about that, and then maybe they can ask?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, primarily our focus for internships and working with schools has been at the college level. Obviously, those are closer to graduation and fill a immediate need for us more than likely. But we've also identified that the need will continue. You know, our population is aging, our workforce population is aging. You know, more people are retiring every year, and we see that especially on the clinical side. As I told the story last time, is Parkview sends out announcements for retirements when somebody retires, and I'm always like, please don't let it be, don't be a nurse. Do not be a nurse, and it's always a nurse. But what we've identified is we need to get to students earlier so they know that there's opportunities, both clinical and non-clinical. Sometimes in college, they're at a point they're like, you know what, I want out of Fort Wayne. I want out of Indiana, and it's too late. So giving them the opportunities, working with the high schools, and even having conversations with the middle schools as well to say there's opportunities there, you know, is going to be important to us. Because again, this is not going away. You know, healthcare is going to be a field that will continue to grow over time, and I think, you know, we see that the need that, yeah, we might not get to that student might not come to us for 8 years, but we'll have a need for them. We'll have a position for them.
Do you have any suggestions on Mr. Murphy, getting into your high schools? Ms. Shanita Porter was talking about this in the first session, and the need to get into high schools, and maybe some suggestions to even go start in 6th grade doing some things. Any suggestions from anyone about how to get into the high schools, who to contact to get in high schools? What kind of internships are you looking for?
Well, we are. I mean, you know, the internship thing is kind of new for us. And then, as you said, you know, you look more on the college level. But what we've done, we did a career fair in our Family Community Engagement Center, and maybe even entertaining the thought of doing a healthcare fair. You know, where we shipped our students in to the Family Community Engagement Center. I think that would be one thing that we could start talk about doing, and then maybe have, you know, from Parkview Lutheran and even from some of the schools to start talking about, because a concern of ours is, you know, we know that all of our students are not going to a 4-year college. So those are, you know, and who might have an interest in healthcare, what's the starting point for them? Where do they go, you know, I mean, instead of, you know, getting out and going into housekeeping, they need to know about the other things, you know, what other things that's happening there that they get into, that would draw interest, and maybe even once getting in, you know, that if that interest sparks even to go to a higher level, what type of training, what type of tuition assistance would you offer them, something like, you know, so.
Yeah, and we've expanded our partnership with Ivy Tech in regards to the education piece of it. If you work for Parkview, there's benefits of going to Ivy Tech and getting your degree. I think you'll continue to see that partnership, but I think you're right. I mean, give them the exposure, have those conversations with people that actually do it. You know, one way to do that, yeah, your ultimate goal might be this, but there's a starting point, right? And we've had a lot of people that have started in dietary or environmental services because they just don't have experience, but they've moved on. I mean, they moved on to non-clinical roles or clinical roles. I mean, that is an opportunity to say, yes, you might not get where you want to be in day one, but 2, 3, 4 years down the road, you'll get there.
Well, and back to the question about getting into high schools, I don't think that is a difficult thing. I mean, you contact a guidance counselor, you want to come in and talk to kids, we'll make that happen. Had a gentleman who, I can't think of his name, but you guys might know, has free CNA classes, partners with Ashton Creek, all of those places. Not a problem. 25 kids came down, he talked with them, gave them the information. The problem I see is getting the kids to follow through to do it. Where to me, it's more beneficial for the kid to go on to the hospital's campus. They have to see it. I mean, we can talk to them till we're blue in the face, but until they see it, do it, experience it, and really spend 2 hours at Ashton Creek following a CNA around, or 2 hours at Parkview, seeing the different things that that person does, they don't get it. And I'm talking seniors. So we can do that for 6th graders and they're really not gonna get it. So you have, and that's what we talked about with the manufacturing. Until they get into a manufacturing organization and see that it's not dirty, see that it's not quote unquote manual hard labor, they don't get it. So any ways that we can work with you to get kids there, that's what I would like to see happen. Because they know what a teacher does, they know what a nurse does, but they don't, those back end jobs, don't have a clue. Don't have a clue what those back end jobs are.
Would anyone like to comment on that?
Well, I agree with that, because a lot of times we see the 2 reasons we see people leave our company are, one, conflict with their leader, but a bigger piece of it is the job was not what they expected. A lot of times it's a lot harder than they expected. So they think, oh, I'm gonna move into a environmental services role, it'll be easy, I'll do this, then this and this. What they don't understand is if you're working at the hospital, depending on what floor you work on, it can be pretty intense. So without them seeing that firsthand, experiencing that, you're exactly right. It's not real to them in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
So how do we make that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. How do we make that happen? I don't know. I mean, hospitals are so different because of all the FERPA and HIPAA laws and all of that. So I know that is much harder than taking a group of 30 kids into an industry.
Yeah, and we the one thing we're focused on now is, my team is being the recruiting team is responsible for going out to the job fairs, going into schools and talking. But what we want to do is bring those experts with us. So yeah, you might not see it firsthand, but you're talking to a nurse that is in the ER, and she works, night shift at Rendelia. And she can sit there and say, this is what we see on the weekends. So you're not seeing it firsthand, but you're hearing it firsthand from somebody that's there.
And even getting them out of the high school. Yes. Because they sit and get all day long in the high school building and they tune everybody out.
Right.
But once you take them out, so even if it's at Ivy Tech and they're sitting in this room and they get donuts, I'm telling you what, it's a whole different ballgame. They'll listen. They will. I mean, so that, the career fair idea, that is great. It's just getting the word out, and counselors, I think, are the best, people to get that information to, that here's going to be, like Ivy Tech does the iCareer Day. Bring me as many kids as you want, and then they can hear about all of those things. That's definitely part of it.
Do all of you agree with that? That getting them?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Thomas, you have anything to add to that?
Well, I was going to say that it may be also helpful because I see the problem as being multi-generational. And so it's not just the immediate student, but also getting whatever that home structure is. So whether they stay with mom and dad or mom alone or a grandparent, uncle, aunt, I think those individuals too need to be educated about what the opportunities are, because it may be a bit hard for them to wrap around this concept of going into a particular career or even going to college for a career unless they have some context and exposure to that. Certainly within Ivy Tech, we're trying to make those pathways a little bit easier in K-12. We're going to launch this fall a pre-nursing studies certificate, which basically means follow the script, and you'll get a chance to apply directly to our School of Nursing from K-12. Up until now, that was not probable or possible to get done. And so we think that's a new way to try to fill up this particular pipeline as we look at meeting the workforce needs here in Northeast Indiana. The other thing I would also say from an exposure perspective, we're going to take time this summer to really look at the prerequisites that are required for a lot of our what we call selective admission or two-step admission programs. So things like Surge Tech, the things that you have to fill out you have to go through successfully a set of prerequisites, and then you're into the program. We're going to see how much of that we can embed directly in K-12. I think that's a wonderful opportunity, in addition, by using dual credit to really get folks up to speed and into places and opportunities where they can do that faster and be in the sort of courses and classrooms where they're actually doing that experiential learning versus having to sit through the gen ed portion of this in order to get to the other side, right? And so we're hoping that will help as well. So that, I would say, a multi-generational approach, us really coming out with a pre-nursing study certificate this fall, and then figuring out how much of this we can do dual credit wise to give our dual credit partners really healthcare blocks that make a lot of sense to say, finish these block of courses, and it opens up the following doorways.
When will counselors know about this?
As soon as we're able to build that this summer. It'll take us a while to really compile. We have about 16 different selective admission programs, and then we have to figure out what works up here in Northeast Indiana and compose that against what happens across the entire state. But that'll be our project this summer for us to unfold that. When we have it, it'll be released. We have some dual credit people, some folks in our central office that we'll share here locally, that we'll share with every superintendent in the state, and the folks at DOE. Here's what Ivy Tech's doing to try to make these pathways a lot easier, and certainly share that directly with counselors.
Mr. Ross, could you talk about the Mirror Center and the simulation?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we offer and we provide, we have at the Miro Center, we have our simulation lab, which is everything but simulated. So we've got dummies, we've got computer generated programs that people can see and actually, watch what happens in a given situation. That's something that we have found very useful, especially from an education standpoint, because again, it's not the real thing, but it's as close as you're going to get in a lot of situations. So we've got that opportunity. We've got clinical educators. We've got a large team of clinical educators that were nurses or other roles that they educate now, both internally and externally. So those opportunities exist out there. Again, our goal is to go to these things and not only provide information about jobs, but what those jobs entail. And that's why we want leaders and people that are doing those jobs to be there with us so they can answer those questions.
You have some more questions?
I have a question. I don't know if this is maybe more from Mr. Thomas. We keep hearing in the K-12 side, obviously we know that nursing programs are we have a shortage of nurses, yet nursing programs are extremely competitive. We see here consistently to get into and that sort of thing. So what are you hearing, seeing? Obviously we don't want to lower expectations for folks in that area, but is there an expansion of opportunities that you see out there to increase the number of nurses? How are we going to address the shortage, I guess, if we don't look at ways to grow the number of nurses that we're producing, I guess?
Great question. The first thing we're going to do is really be extremely transparent, Ivy Tech is, as to what it takes to get into our School of Nursing. So it won't be a mystery any longer. It's 160 points. Of the 160, 100 is the TEAS test. test for essential academic skills, which is based on 9th through 12th grade work. And so I would tell all the counselors, make sure everyone takes the T's and scores pretty well. The other thing that we're doing, we've moved our application deadline. So in years past, it was April 1st, which meant none of your K-12 students were eligible to even apply to our School of Nursing because they didn't have a high school diploma. So internally, we stopped and took a look at that and said, four-year institutions are giving out hundreds of thousands of dollars based on 3 years worth of high school work. Why are we limiting our K-12 students from directly being admitted into our School of Nursing? And so we have a philosophy and policy change going forward that we will openly share what it takes starting in K-12. Here are the prerequisites that are required. And the other thing that I said that having the pre-nursing study certificate, I think, would help. In our state, unlike Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, and Illinois, the certified nurse aide, that CNA, is not a bridge into the nursing program. And the reason is because it's ran by the State Department of Health. It is not run by the State Board of Nursing. I'll tell you that curriculum, they don't touch it, they don't see it, they don't govern it, they don't review it. And so Ivy Tech will be the intermediary and we will build that bridge. When we take a look at the data, a lot of K-12 partners and CTE partners share with a lot of students that, hey, start here with CNA and you can work your way to being a nurse. We're gonna actually put some credibility behind those words as an institution by having this pre-nursing study certificate. It's 17 credit hours long. We'll give you credit for being a CNA, that's 5 of the 17 hours. And then let you know all the required courses at a bare minimum. You can get into the practical nursing program with that, with addition with the T's, and of course, successfully completing high school. And then if you choose the math, you can get into our Associate of Science degree in nursing. And so if you choose that, if you choose not to, we've got some other courses for you to take that will help you along your journey for our practical nursing program. But the number one rate limiting step for us in expanding our program is having the number of available clinical spots. And so it is a direct one-to-one relationship and ratio for us. And so just yesterday, I was standing in front of the Indiana Hospital Association, making it very clear to that group, to their workforce council that they had, and that constituency, that unless I have more clinical spots, I cannot grow any of my clinical programs. And so if you need 500 more nurses, guess what? I need 500 more clinical spots. And so whether you're Parkview or if you're Lutheran, if you're an assisted living facility, if you're a long-term care facility here in Northeast Indiana, I need to have clinical spots. One other fact, even if you need LPN in their post-acute care world, so in long-term care and assisted living, you still need to do a maternity and pediatric rotation in an acute care setting. And so that is part of the building block in making a practical nurse. And so a lot of acute care facilities in the past have had a stance that since we don't employ LPNs anymore in our acute care world, we no longer will allow them to do clinical rotations there. And so while some of the sentiment has changed, we've certainly made it known in order to produce an LPN, I need inroads into that. We do a lot through simulation. There's been some studies out that say you can go up to 50% of your clinical experience can be in simulation. Right now, as an institution, we're at about 20%. We think that's a good, comfortable number. We're in between 20 and 25%. We'd like to not increase it and really give our students that hands-on experience. Our Lpn pass rate is at 96%. 96.7%. At one point we were at 99, so we've dropped off a little bit. And I would say our pass rate first quarter in 2017 for our ASN students was at 85%. So we think we have a program that works, but I absolutely need clinical spots in order to grow the program. There's no way without additional clinical spots that we can grow it.
And with those 2 degree programs, because Ivy Tech does not offer a bachelor's in nursing,
Correct.
correct?
Not yet. Did you get that on record? No.
Are hospitals hiring
The
the non-bachelor degree nurses? Because I keep hearing as a guidance counselor,
Yeah.
they're not being
So
hired.
I'm gonna jump in before Jeff answers for Parkview. I'll say this. In 2010, the Institute of Medicine report comes out. Recommendation number 4 is 80% of care should be given by a BSN. So everyone goes off to the races. At that time, as a country, we were at 50% of our nursing staff having a BSN. In 2015, I flew to DC and we checked back in with the Institute of Medicine. And when I sat there in the room as the Institute of Medicine did an update to their 2010 recommendation, do you know what the percentage was that had a BSN at that time? This is just 2 years ago, 52%. So I'll tell you, by the year 2020, we won't get to 80% as a country. Now, shrinking that to organizations. Organizations certainly want to, if those who are up on the Malcolm Baldrige journey or the Magnet journey, I've been part of facilities that have done those things, certainly want to strive toward BSN, and we wholeheartedly support it as an institution. We tell all of our students that we believe in lifelong learning, that you do not stop here. To that fact, to put our money where our mouth is, we have 17 affiliation agreements with 4-year partners all across the state to complete here and go on with your education. Most of those affiliations also come with a discount because you graduated from Ivy Tech, which is the largest nursing school in the country, okay? So we absolutely believe in it, we promote it, and certainly want to work with employers around it. The reality is, a lot of employers, if they've had a BSN only stance upon hiring, have backed off of that, seeing where the trends have gone. And so we promote it, we certainly understand it, and most employers have gone to, upon employment, you'll have X number of years to receive your BSN. And I would say Ivy Tech is well positioned to meet those needs of not only the employer, but of our graduate because of the favorable affiliation partnerships that we've been able to build over time.
Mr. Rice?
Yeah, so he hit on a lot of good points that I was going to mention. We started our Magnet journey a couple years ago, and we're still on that path. So that 80% is kind of what our focus is. But again, we do have other paths. You can come in as an ASN, and we give you a certain set of time to get your BSN. So
what time is that? What's this?
Usually 5 years. Usually 5 years that from when they start to accomplish their. But it really all depends too. We'll work with the individuals to identify that. So we do that. We understand that. We see it too. We're slowly moving up to that 80%. I don't think we're as quick as we want to be, and his data shows that across the board. So it's difficult. So that's why we're giving these ASNs paths to get there.
You talked about tuition.
Yeah.
In the other meetings. Would you talk
Yeah,
about
we
that?
do tuition, reimbursement. The program we have with Ivy Tech is really the way it's set up. There's no money exchanging hands from the student standpoint. So that's that we just launched that. So that's a huge benefit to our employees. And I think that's something that many, if they're not going to take, they should take advantage of that.
It's called Achieve Your Degree, or AYD. It's essentially that back office function where in the past you would have to pay for those classes up front. We essentially invoice your employer and try to make that as seamless as possible to the incumbent employee. So it's a huge benefit. It was something that employers were already doing, typically called tuition reimbursement. But we've kind of taken on that liability and risk with employers and helping them choose programs and promote the things that are important to them.
Anything? I want to ask about volunteers. Would volunteering at Parkview be a way to get in, or a way to do whatever we're talking about?
Yeah, that we have a strong volunteer program. that's a potential way. Those volunteer, service or those roles encompass the whole health system, both in the hospitals and outside the hospital. So that's one way. I know you volunteer there and you said it's been a great experience. So that's a route. I mean, obviously your traditional students are route, your non-traditional students are route. So that's just one more way, to potentially look at opportunities within Parkview.
Okay. How we doing? Yes.
Another question. Okay, so the non-clinical positions that you have available.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about dietetics and environmental, which that's a nice way. It's cleaning and custodial and that type of thing. Those are probably high school diploma type of positions. The other non-clinical, what are you looking for from students, whether high school or college? Are there other positions they can get with a high school diploma?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so that's the benefit, and most companies have seen this is, when it comes to education requirements, years of experience requirements, we're somewhat flexible because, how do I say this? Somebody could be degreed all the way up, but you put them in a work environment, they won't succeed. So a lot of times that work experience is important. So we've got opportunities that high school degree, associates, bachelor's, master's in all of our areas. So there's really, our standard is the high school diploma or a bachelor's, but that's not all of our positions. So we've got some flexibility. Even if it does say, hey, a bachelor's degree is required, we can look at an exception policy just like we do with our nurses and say, hey, we'll hire you for this role and we'll give you X amount of time to achieve your bachelor's degree if that's what you want to do. So there's all kinds of opportunities there, all kinds of experience. One program that we have and that we kind of document is for those service level positions, environmental service, nutrition, where they go. We call it kind of a graduate program because we have people in that program that come in, get experience, get exposure to healthcare, then move into clinical roles or non-clinical roles. We've got nurses that started there. We've got people in operations. We've got executives that started there as well. So it's a good place, especially for the younger people to start, to get exposure and to get into a company like Parkview. Doesn't mean you have to stay there.
Is this helping? Okay. I'm hoping that you have their business cards. I'm hoping we follow up and we help them get into the high schools and help them allow students to come on their campuses. And I'm looking forward to the information about the prerequisites and the dual credits. I think that's going to be great for counselors and find out. At the other session, we had Boys and Girls Club that was there, and they were talking about trying to get people to come in and talk to their students. Mr. Thomas gave them actually two names of actual people, so he'll repeat that now.
Sure. Our Dean of Nursing here, her name is Nadina. She would be a great advocate here in Northeast Indiana. Has been here a long time. Actually, our Assistant Vice President for Nursing statewide, her name is Dr. Jewel Dillard, and she's based here at this campus at Fort Wayne. And so both would be excellent advocates speaking specifically around nursing. But our Health Sciences Dean here, his name is Matt Shady. I absolutely love and adore Matt. Matt is a paramedic, been a paramedic for over 10 years, and certainly has lots of stories, but is an excellent resource for this community here, and talking about program opportunities outside of nursing.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Thank you, Mr. Rice. Thank you.